Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Thanks for joining me. Today we're creating a Christmas memo board and jug. We're going to be using the new Blitz and Baubles mould, the Noel paint inlay, and the Christmas Valley transfer from IOD. The memo board and jug that we're going to be working on today were both thrift shop finds. Let's start with the jug first. After cleaning well with white lightning and rinsing, I used Bell's drop cloth chalk mineral paint. I did 2 coats and then got to work on my moulds. We're using the amazing fast cast resin in our Blitz moulds today because it's quite quick. You have a work time of about 2 to 3 minutes, and then it takes about 15 minutes for it to set up, and then you can use them straight away. It's a 2-part method. You want to put part A and part B together in quite precise measurements. That's where the measurements on the IOD moulds come in really handy, and then you're going to watch it as it changes and turns into an opaque white. When you first take the moulds out, they are quite flexible, so if you're going to add them to a round surface, you'll want to do this pretty soon after you take them out of the moulds. I'm using a strong all-purpose glue to attach them to the jug, and then I'm pressing down and making sure that I have good contact. Next, I'm adding Bell's drop cloth again to the snowflakes and working it into all of the little grooves and details. And then I will come in with Bell's Satin clear coat and seal the snowflakes for the next step. Next, I'm adding Bell's Grunge Glaze to the snowflake and the jug itself. I'm working the glaze into the little details and then wiping it back. So I really just want that darkness to remain to really highlight the details in the snowflakes and wiping it back where I don't want it so dark. I added a little bit of paint on the inside of the jug and used my mister to thin the water out, and then I rotated the jug just to cover up some of the yuckier dark spots. Next, I'm using Bell's bronze and gold gilding wax on the jug. I'm using the bronze around the edges and the gold on the snowflakes. I think it's a really nice way to highlight the curves and details. We're starting our memo board. The top of the memo board had come off and it had a weird little sign on it, so I took that off. I cleaned the memo board itself, and then I did 2 coats of Bell's Palmetto chalk mineral paint. I have masking taped off the whiteboard section and the corkboard section, and I'm painting the top of the memo board itself. Next, I'm adding 2 coats of Bell's Fluff chalk mineral paint. This is the base for where our paint inlay is going to go. IOD's Noel paint inlay is 8 pages of beautiful paint inlay designs. There are a lot of smaller designs and designs that you can cut and mix and match. They've really given us a lot to play with here. It's a great opportunity if you've never used a paint inlay before. We're going to be using a few elements from the Noel paint inlay design, and you can see it is quite hard to pick just one, but we are just going to be decorating the top part of the memo board, and we are going to be using the beautiful sleigh rides section. So I'm cutting that out and I'll set aside the other designs for later. Now this was quite a compact design, so I cut out each section because I knew I was going to want to space it out a little bit more, and there's no issues with doing this. You'll just save up those pieces and set them out the way that you want. So I'm laying out my design, and I've also decided to use part of an offcut from a previous project down the bottom. So I'm laying down a thick coat of Dixie Belle's Fluff chalk mineral paint. I'm working in sections because you don't want that paint to dry before you have set your paint inlay into it. When I've got enough paint down, I'm going to press my paint inlay grid side up down into my wet paint, and I'm going to smooth it out and make sure that I've got really good contact with that wet paint. Next, I'm coming in with my mister and I'm making sure to wet the paper, and I'm going to be using a damp cloth to press down onto the design. You can use a sponge as well. The water is going to help release the design into the wet paint. I'm also using a brayer to smooth my design down. When the paint inlay is dry, I'm using my mister again to wet the paper. This is going to help the paper release, and I'm also using a damp cloth too. Then you're going to pick a section and very carefully and slowly pull the paper away, and the design will be underneath looking beautiful. This design is meant to look rustic and a bit faded. I love how this looks. It looks really cute. You're then going to place your designs off to one side to dry with the design side up. You'll be able to use these another couple of times again. Something to keep in mind when you go to use these designs again is that whatever paint you had laying down, there will be remnants of it on your paper, so maybe use a similar color on your next project so you don't notice it as much. Next, I'm using a 50-50 mix of clear coat and water to seal the paint inlay. So I decided to add some snowflakes from the paint inlay, and I am using satin clear coat over the corkboard and repeating the steps from before, placing the paint inlay into some wet satin clear coat and using some water and pressure. When the paint inlays were dry, I wet them with my mister and then very carefully pulled the designs away. Remember, save these because you will get a few uses out of them. I put my 50-50 clear coat and water sealer over the top of this as well. Next, I decided to add this cute little house from the Christmas Valley transfer just to the top section. I thought it would be a really sweet little addition. I'm of course sealing the paint first with Satin clear coat, and then once that's dry, I'm positioning my transfer and burnishing the design down, very carefully lifting the plastic as I go. Then I'm sealing the transfer and the paint inlay so that I can attach my other section from the transfer down the bottom. I'm also doing a little bit of distressing with some sandpaper and some sticky tape to pull up little bits of paint to give it a chippy look. I then took out my casting resin again to create 2 baubles to go either side of the paint inlay design. Each of the baubles is painted in Dixie Belle's Fluff. I then used my all-purpose glue to attach the baubles to the sides. I then decided to add some red little holly berries to the design and rubbed them on with my transfer stick. Next, I reattached the top to the back of the memo board. Finally, I'm adding some gold and bronze gilding wax in certain areas to add just that little something special. And here's the finished product. I'm really happy with this memo board, and I think that jug looks super cute next to it. This was such a fun project. I hope that you guys like it. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. I'd love it if you could hit that like button, and if you could hit that subscribe button for some more wonderful festive crafts and furniture makeovers. You can find all the IOD and Dixie Belle products used in this video on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Head over and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest and TikTok. Thanks for watching.